Hey, what's up everyone? Dr. D back here with Dr. D's DDR for Dummies, DDR tips and tricks, and this is going to be episode 1. Episode 1 is going to be talking mostly about mental and physical games. I should say right now, a lot of the earlier episodes are really going to be kind of prepping you mostly mentally and partly how to be prepped physically to start getting good at DDR. So we're gonna mostly have some kind of discussions these first few episodes. So the first one that we're really gonna touch home on today is mental game versus physical game. Now, I cannot stress how important each one of these are to your success. You have your own goals. I have my own goals. Everyone has their own goals, and you should ask yourself, where do you want to be from now? Where would you realistically like to be able to be in terms of your skill, your MA, your difficult song feats? You have to ask yourself, what are you even aiming for? And then you have to know that the only two things that are ever going to limit you to these goals are going to be your mental and your physical game. It's kind of like yin and yang. You can't have one without the other. They are both equal parts to your success. Having a strong mental game means that you fundamentally understand the game very well. I usually associate mental game with your timing, how well you can MA or PA if you're on extreme. Well, there's also extreme plus, which, well, we're not going to get into that. But your mental game is mostly going to be determining how well you can assess the game, the fundamentals, how well you can read the notes, what is your scroll speed limit, what, how you're able to dissect patterns in your mind, how you're able to translate patterns with your fingers or in your mind into foot placement, how you're able to do all these kind of things. Now, physical game is pretty self-explanatory. That's the game where it's mostly focused on how well your physical condition is and how well you can physically do something. My timing might be better than another player, but if they can physically do an ITG 20 and I can't, they're just going to do better than me, period. However, if a similar player were to try a DDR 12, though they can out stamina me, without a good, strong mental game to improve their accuracy, I'm probably going to beat them 9 times out of 10. So, ideally, you really want to try to work on both of these. But definitely, in my experience and how I taught myself, was really focusing on my mental game. My physical game has never been too strong. As people who've followed me can tell you, I kind of cap out around 16, 17. Maybe I can AAA some 18s, and that's about it. I would like to say that probably if I had a better physical game, I could reach new layers into well, personally, I can improve personally. So your mental game can only be as good as your physical game will let you be, but you need a physical game to make any of your mental game work for you, if that makes any sense. So to improve your mental game, we'll be talking about that in later episodes. I'm just really trying to clearly describe to you that there's two different games. Working on both of them is going to be the key to your success. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this episode were about goals. So I asked you about what do you want to do in the future. Do you want to pass a certain song? Do you want to AAA every certain song of whatever level or mix or difficulty? Do you want to get MFCs? What are your goals? That is so important to make goals and work towards them. You should be making short term, mid-term, and even long-term goals. Some goals that you might not be able to accomplish months, even years down the line, you should still put it in your mind to work towards. Because anytime you can do a little chip away at it, it's going to be psychologically satisfying and give you that reward and give you the desire to keep working towards whatever long-term goal that is. Medium-term goals are just as well. Short-term goals are what you should be doing for the day. What is your goal for the day? Do you want to get a certain score? Do you want to beat someone at this? Or do you want to, whatever you want to do, that is a short term goal. Short term goals I consider can be done in a session or even a week at most. Midterm, you're looking at a month to 6. Long term is 6 months or anything above a year or more. So you gotta want it. Put it simply, DDR is not just gonna you can't become a master by just willing it. You got to work towards it. No matter what we're going to be discussing in the future episodes, I need to ask you here and now, are you really prepared to take the dive? Because you cannot expect to see results if you're not willing to put in the time, which is what we're going to discuss now. How much time do you actually have to put aside each week and play this hobby? If you're answering around like 2 to 4 hours, there's only so much I can help you with. If you can at least put aside, say, 10 hours to 20 hours a week, that's more ideal to see a lot more progress, because if you just have a few hours, it's hard to really make some long term muscle memory, to make some solid progress, because if you're playing once a week, only a couple hours, you're going to be starting over from scratch each time you go back to the arcade. You got to compound and make progress on top of your progress from previous sessions. Of course, you need rest days, but you also need to be actively playing. And when you're not physically playing, you got to be putting it in your mind. I'm constantly thinking of DDR all the time. I always try to think about, oh, if I can get this kind of score, maybe I can complete this folder. Or, oh, I got 3 perfects on this song, but that first perfect was on the first step, and I could probably avoid the other 2 perfects, so maybe I can MFC it. Or I'll think, oh, I'd really like to get the 17s full comboed. What's stopping me from doing that? Okay, Pluto the First is stopping me from do that, so the only way I can improve on that is to work on that. You gotta identify your weaknesses. Whatever your weaknesses may be, whether they be trivial or they be detrimental to your overall ability, you gotta identify it. You gotta know your physical limits, and you gotta know that whatever you can do. Let's take it back for a second. Let's say that you're a player getting so and so score on. We're using DDRA rankings for these videos, by the way. Say that you can AAA level 10s, right? So you can AAA level 10s, and let's just say like Golden Sky, even though it's removed. You can get a AAA on it every time. However, when you play another song, say a level 12 or a 13, that's a similar BPM, but you can't get the AAA. Why is that? Is it because the notes were faster? Let's say that we're using the same BPM as an example. If you're playing 2 songs, let's just say I'm 130 BPM. What's the difference between a 130 BPM at a level 10 and a level 14? Well, most of the time it's the arrow density. It's how many arrows are in there. But if you can AAA songs at a level 10, that is the 130 BPM, and you can't do it at a 140, what's really the difference here? The tempo should be good on your part. Of course, there's going to be maybe some 16ths or 12ths in a 14, but tempo-wise, it seems like you got the hang of it if you can AAA it every time. So what you're starting to notice is when you get to that level, the only thing stopping you from doing that is your physical limitation. And what I mean by that is that most likely when you're playing that 14, the hypothetical 14, you're getting more tired. You're getting a little less, you're not able to give it your all the entire time on that song because there's just more arrows, there's more density. Even though they're similar BPMs and you know that timing pretty well, you're limited by your physical capability. Now, if I asked you to drop down to a level 6 and play it, it would feel trivially, I can't even say this word, trivially, there we go, easy to do it. Why? Because it's nothing. If you can AAA 10s, doing a 6 that is similar, say it's the difficult chart, it would be very easy. Well, your goal then is to not get good at 14s, but try to get better physically on 16s or even 15s. Because when you go back and try a 14, it would feel like you were playing a 10. So improving your physical will help unlock new doors to you. So what I'm really trying to get at with this whole point is that if you see that you're plateauing at getting certain scores, like you got the scores you want, but you can only confine it to a certain difficulty level, then probably your biggest limiting factor at that time is your physical game. Now, we'll talk about how to improve physical and mental in future episodes. I'm just trying to let you know about the differences. and how I've experienced them and what's limiting you. For me personally, I would say that I have a very strong mental game, as in I understand the breakdown of a lot of charts. I understand the timing. I understand when I need to hit, how I need to hit, and all that stuff. And most of the time, when it comes down to not being able to MFC any higher, it's not just because my mental, it's because of the actual physical. Why can't I MFC every 15? Well, I get tired a lot easier when I play 15s. If I were someone like Chris, who's just wiping the boards with 15s lately, MFCing them, well, he doesn't get tired when he plays a 15. Him playing a 15 is the same like me playing a 12. I can just play it at full capacity. Where I go a little bit higher, it's going to start hitting me not in a mental way, but in a physical way. So this episode is really focused on just letting you know that there's two different games you're going to be playing. One is going to be improving your mental game, i.e., trying to get better scores in the EMA department and more accuracy and understanding patterns and playing things out in your mind. And physically, none of that does you any good if you can't physically perform the actions that you mentally know you have to do. Some people are limited by their scoring, by their mental game. You'll look at ITG players who can pass 22s, 23s, but they'll struggle playing a 15 in DDR and get a high score. Why? Their mental game. Their mental game is just not as advanced as their physical game. Playing the said 15 will do almost nothing to their stamina. And yeah, I was talking 20s in ITG scale and then 15s in DDR scale, so the difference here is so great. But they would be limited. They would be limited to how how high they can score because of their mental game. Because generally speaking, now this doesn't apply to all ITG players, but generally speaking, ITG has wider timing windows, so people who are working on getting Fantastics are doing a disservice when they go to DDRA because the Marvelous window is a lot tighter. So where they think they're stepping and they would be getting the max score, fantastic, they're still going to be getting perfects, and when they would have been getting excellence, they might have been getting greats. So that's why they might not score so well. Now, other players, like me, we have the strong mental game. We can actually MA pretty well, but the real problem comes down to when we're playing harder things, because the physical toll starts to show its ugly head. So for me, the best way I can improve right now and actually see some big improvements would be working on my physical game. Where other players in your shoes, you got to assess it yourself. Everyone is different. You have to ask yourself right here and now, what is limiting you? Is it you physically can't play through a song without getting so winded that you got to take a break and that's hindering your scoring? Or you can play a song just fine, you're just not getting the score you want. If it's the latter, you got to work on your mental game. If it's the former, you got to work on your physical game. And that's going to do it. So that's going to wrap it up for episode 1, mental versus physical game. Of course, we will be discussing how to improve those games in future episodes, but as I mentioned very early on in this video, I'm just opening up more of a discussion for this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions how to make it even better, let me know. This is a work in progress, but I hope you did find this episode somewhat useful, and I'll see you again for episode 2. Bye.